Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm Yasmina Salman from Al-Najaah National University. I'm still a student of architecture. First of all, I would like to thank you for this great opportunity. I have actually expanded my horizons, and I created a great bond with the village that I worked on.
Yeah, so if you would like to go ahead and just talk a bit about the project, the concept, and just so that the audience gets a bit of a sense of what it's about.
The main reason that made me so attached to Sataf is that when I went to the library to do some research, I found out that most of the destroyed Palestinian villages had their own memory book, but Sataf doesn't. And I admit that it was the first time that I've heard about Sataf. And I think that as a Palestinian, it's so sad for me. And at that moment, I knew that it's time to put a spot on this forgotten village. For my concept, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, for my concept, I tried to create a strategy that makes me know every single detail about Sataf. So I depended on many things. One of them is the oral history. It was so useful for me. I communicated with an origin person from Sataf who lives in Amman now, and he helped me so much to create a whole vision about the social life in Sataf and so on. So my concept was to create strategy, as I said. So this strategy was like facts plus visions. So that means that every single fact in the village is enhanced with a better vision in my design. For example, there was lack of education and bad health, there was no clinics and so on. The conditions, I can't deny that the conditions of living in the village before 1948 wasn't easy at all. And we can't deny this fact. So I tried to create a modern village, but a village that you can still attach to. At the first, I just would like to add something that I went to the village, and it wasn't easy at all to arrive to Jerusalem because I'm a green ID holder. So I had to apply for a permission to get to Jerusalem, and I actually applied twice, which means that I have waited 2 months to get to Jerusalem, and it was so challenging actually because when I went to the village, I was so shocked because everything looks different. And when I came back from the trip, I thought that I had to change all the analysis that I made before. Because you know, when you visit the site, it's a totally new experience. And that was so hard because I had less than a month to make a whole project. Now I'm going to share my presentation with you. Can you see the presentation now?
1 second. Just give me 1 second. Do we have a Skype expert?
I know.
It's just
it's
actually the projector, which we have it here. Oh yeah, we've got it. We've got it. Thanks. We've got it. Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about Sataf. Sataf is a destroyed village, and it's 14 kilometers west of Jerusalem. First of all, I've studied a lot of complicated issues in Sataf. Actually, Sataf is a unique case of destroyed villages because when you go, you will get confused. There's just two different landscapes. The first landscape is the regular agricultural Palestinian village, and the other scene that you can see is that there's a National Jewish Park, which was established actually by the National Jewish Fund. So, because I got so confused, I studied the agricultural issue so carefully, so I made some studies on the layers You can see here, that there has been some changes from 1945 to 2019. So I studied the agricultural areas and the semi-natural areas, and at the last I got a clear land use. Just to make a conversation of the Palestinian agricultural identity. And then you can see the site over here. There are two springs, central springs, and most of the houses in the village were concentrated on the center of the village. So it was a little bit hard to make a vision about the village because you can say that 94 per 100 of the houses were destroyed. So there are still maybe just 4 houses. Now you can see Sataf today is a national park. They use it just like for hiking and so on. After I studied the agricultural issue and I see the oral history and the social life, I got a concept which is facts was student. For example, for the facts, the most issue that makes me so attached is the women of Sataf. The women of Sataf actually lived a very hard life. They used to walk 10 kilometers a day, carrying 25 kilograms of crops to sell them in Jerusalem, and it was so hard for them. They used actually to go through this steep path. So to make a solution, I converted this path of their pains to an economical path. So you can see in the new design that there are shops to sell crops and to sell organic products that are produced in the factory of the village. So they don't have to leave Sataf anymore. They can sell comfortably and work in their own land. So here you can see a sketch of the old houses in Sataf in 1945. So I just inspired these kinds to build this style to build my new house units. For the agricultural issue, I decided that all the Palestinian identity, all the Palestinian trees that is from the basic identity of the Palestinian land will be, I won't take any one of these trees. Now, about housing, I created, my project is like a returning project, so all the refugees will return and live in their village. So I estimated the number of the new villagers, and it's approximately 6,000. They are in Jordan or in just other camps. So I created, because the Palestinian community is different, I created 3 types of house units. The first one is for 7 or 8 people. You can see the plans over here, and I avoided to make a great cut and fill in the village just to keep the agricultural nature of the village. So I created each unit is 2 floors. You can see just a section here. And I created 3 different types of units. It differs from family to family according to the number of the family members. You can see here some shots, 3D shots for the houses. And now this is just a section. The topography in the village is a little bit so steep and hard. I don't have horizontal spaces. So you can see here just a simple section of my building method. Now, there's the whole site plan. You can see that I contributed the village, the houses. Each group of houses are gathered around a public space. It's called in the traditional architecture house. So I just can make the people feel attached to each other and just make the community stronger. And you can see that they are spreading in the land just in a way that I didn't change the topography of the land. Because the circumstances of living and stuff was not easy at all from the oral history, I decided to add everything that wasn't existed in Sadaf. So there's an educational complex, and a clinic, a public park, and each one is detailed later. There's a shopping center, a mosque, a museum, and a cultural center. There's a village factory. And you can see here that the olive groves, I didn't touch any tree. They are just as they are. And here we can see the commercial path for organic products that I created for the women of Sadaf, which I just say that they used to walk to this down to Ain Khiyam. So we can see here some details. There's an educational complex. This educational complex has a very comfortable design, and it's suitable for every single person in Sadaf. You can see there is a high school, a sports complex, there's art primary schools for girls and boys, there are educational schools just for people who don't want to go to university, there's for the old ones, a literacy school, a theater, and a kindergarten, and there's just, you can notice that I kept the salasil, which means the stone chains that were basically existed in the area. Here you can see that I designed a public park that is so going among the already existed trees in this place, and so there are other peoples can come from other villages, which means that there is an economy for this village. And here you can notice that there's a factory for making organic products. It's among the trees. I just didn't change the agricultural nature here, the Palestinian agricultural nature. For the few 3 or 4 houses that were existed in the center of the village, we can see here Ain Sataf, which is the main spring in the village. And we can see that I added some new simple buildings among the existed buildings, and there's just a main path that makes you go among a trip in the history. There's just a library and a cultural center and a society for women, for sure, because women, they had a very tough life in Sadaf, so I tried to create a better life for them. Here, after that, you can see the mosque. The mosque is just, as you see, it sits among that topography. I tried as much as I can to change nothing about the nature of the village. You can still see the main contour lines. And this is just a detail of the way of the housing. Okay, now here are some 3D shots. We can see here one unit. It's the housing units are just created with the stone, because this is the traditional building material. But to avoid changing the identity of some remains, I added some modern materials like wood and plaster, just to be clear that this is just a modern design. I didn't want to, to change the history. This is just a shot from the Women's Society, and this is a whole shot. This is the entrance, actually, you can see the entrance. And here just a shot of the public park.
ياسمينة
this is just
سوري إنه أقاطعك بس معاكي كمان نص دقيقة عشان نعطي فرصة للباقي.
okay. Just more shots. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Who shall we go for next? Let's go for AUB. So we have team leader Noor Bashi. Can you hear me?
Say the full name, please.
Please introduce yourself and the rest of the team and just which university you're from, and you can kickstart with the presentation.
And stick to the time.
Yeah, and please, if you can, just stick to 7 to 9 minutes. That would be really appreciated.
Yeah, I'll be sure.
Thank you.
We're from American University of Beirut. This is actually the first year our university participates, so we're so glad and proud to the first team. My name is Noor Bashi. This is Kaylin Matta, Christina Piqa, Eli Musa, and Carmen Matta. Our project is called Floodgate, and I'm gonna share the presentation. Just for that. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
So, our area, our village is Ain Ghazal. It's located in the district of Haifa. Ain Ghazal is a symbol of Palestinian resistance and a figure of heroism against the Israeli invasion. It's one of the 3 villages known as the Little Triangle. These were the last 3 standing villages that resisted against the Israeli invasion in 1948. And in August 1948, unfortunately, after the 3rd attack, Ain Ghazal was destroyed. After its fall, the people were displaced and the village was burned to the ground. So later on, the Israeli built a road cutting through the village. It disfigured the landscape and erased traces of the village. But Ain Ghazal is not that, and we're bringing it back to life in a new physical occupation form that commemorates its permanent existence, and new form that will host life for it to prosper again. So basically, this is the current condition. So this is the road that actually cut through the village, and this is the rebuild of Ain Ghazal. This is our proposed project. Okay, so to recover the identity of Ain Ghazal, we propose to bring back the water to the village in a new space for interpretation of God. So the new finding will reclaim the Palestinian presence on site and remove the violent infrastructure and physical traces of occupation. So accordingly, we decided to create a reservoir that collects water, and this body of water actually physically and metaphorically visually drowns the Israeli road. So the body of water created brings life back to Gaza, and the water reservoir becomes an inhabited infrastructure which irrigates the agricultural land and hosts the cultural activities of the village. It acts as a bridge not only between the hills, but also between the past and the future of the village. The structure, as you can see, cuts the road visually. So the road disappears under the water reservoir and under the bridge, and comes back at the end of the village. So the structure actually condenses the village. So as one approaches on the road and drives up the road, they can actually see the facades of the village. This facade is a condensed view of the village, and it is created through a mesh on the facade that actually allows green grow. Naturally grow, it allows the light and vent permission to go inside of the project, as it's the main facade of our village, and it's the main gate to the village. So this screen allows it to blend into the surrounding for its big size. And once you go through the village itself, be celebrated by a vertical elevator that's actually the vertical situation in our site, and it's also a symbol, a flag symbol that represents the village. And at the top there is a platform which overlooks the whole surroundings and allows for anyone in the village to actually watch around.
The program of infrastructure we built is divided into two main categories. One is residential, and the other is social and cultural. The social and cultural hub is to the north of the project. Encompasses the museum, tech factories to process different agriculture,
a library, a municipality, a whole theater, whereas the southern part is more of the residential area and more of a private area. It grows around the courtyard, which allows live ventilation to go in, and it includes the clinic, the nursery, the school, the houses, and mosque. The houses actually are still the temporary houses, which allow for people to join that to reside in them temporarily while they actually build their own houses around the world. In this way, we ensure that people would actually be building the houses that they want to build, and for the village not to be imposed like the Israeli settlements, but to actually live more like organic, vernacular villages that people would build for themselves, by themselves, around the landmarks which actually exist on site. In fact, our village celebrates the communal sense, the strength of bonding together. So when the village actually starts working in our infrastructure, this project brings, in addition to the water, brings life to the site. The water starts creating the agricultural around it. The agriculture starts feeding into the life industry. The life industry starts feeding into the market, which is on the first floor. This market will start bringing back people in. So these people will have input, and they do it for them to actually build their houses around our water and around our ayn and around our infrastructure. And the red points are actually compromised and destroyed that were present in the village before its destruction. So this village will prosper again, will survive, and will brought back to life actually. And this water, through the agriculture and the industry and the irrigation, will actually bring back economic power to Ain Ghazal through the use of what historically made it profitable. And as for this water reservoir, in winter it's a rain collection system. So it's in winter it will reach its maximum, and it will feed into the landscape, agriculture, and it will feed into the houses that were built later on. In summer, as the water level goes down and open amphitheater starts to appear, this is celebrate life. Actually, and as for its art form, it is a public space. It is a continuation actually of the Saha, which is located on the roof of the project, and it's facing it to allow for the people of the village to perform the traditional and cultural arts, music, theater, dance, and celebrate the rebirth of Palestinian culture. This Saha would be actually the connector between the two sides of the village in itself, and it would be connecting to the water and connecting to the amphitheater. So it creates the bond, the strong sense of the village of Gaza, and it would feed the people. One great village
So,
You've got half a minute to wrap up, kindly.
our main purpose in not creating a planned neighborhood for people to live in is very intentional, because we believe that the act of resistance and the act of reclaiming land is a collective act, and it is done collectively. And the choice of providing temporary housing for people to reside in is in fact an act of empowerment. Alongside the collection of water that is being performed by the reservoir, the infrastructure that is rather increased, that people residing in this project will allow to gain control and claim the of Ain Razak in the way they see it most convenient, in the way they see it most suitable to their way of living. New people of Ain Razak are going to reclaim a new Ain Razak that is independent from the Israeli grids that provide them with water. And this water is going to seep into the agriculture and grow back life. And by distancing ourselves from the godlike planning, are enabling the people and giving them the chance and the power to decide collectively of the fate of Ain Razak.
And this basically is our spatial, visual, functional, and symbolic structure.
Thank you very much, AUB team. Thank you.
Next, I can see that we have Shahid with us now. Shahid, can you hear me? Hi, can you just unmute yourself?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thanks. So, Shahid, would you like to introduce yourself? Which university you're from?
Of course.
And you can kickstart off with the presentation. Please bear in mind that it is 7 to 9 minutes, so if you can stick to that, we'd really appreciate it.
Okay, sure. Hi everyone, my name is Shah Farhan. I'm a fourth year architecture student at the University of Jordan. And just give me 1 minute so I can share my screen with you. Alright. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
How about now?
No, we haven't got anything yet.
Sorry for that. Alright, now?
Yes.
Alright, perfect. Before I begin, I just want to say that it is my honor to have my project reviewed by the jury. I admire your work, each and every one of you, truly. So, shall we begin?
Yeah, go ahead. Please do introduce yourself. I'm not sure if you caught that, which university you're from.
I'm a fourth year architecture student from the University of Jordan.
Okay, great.
Alright. Oh, sorry, I'm just having some trouble with the presentation. Just give me 1 minute. Sorry.
We can come back to Shahid.
If you can give me another 2 minutes, my
Shahid,
presentation is
Shahid, we can actually see
kind
your
of stuck.
screen
Yeah.
perfectly well. So just get started
great.
and don't worry. We
Right.
can see it very well, and it's all full screen at our end. So just get on. Don't worry.
I'm sorry. my presentation's worked. Can I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So before I begin, I just want to state the structure that I'm going to start presenting. I've divided my presentation into mainly 3 parts: urban planning and the memorial building design, and finally the plaza design. Now, starting off with the village I chose to redesign Safsaf, which is a Palestinian village located near Safad, and it is named after a tree, the weeping willow tree, to be more specific. These are some of the images that of Safsaf to better understand the context and the materials. I have used I have different concepts for each and every part of the project. However, I was working on one design methodology. They share the same methodology, and it is basically that I tried to, and I kept moving back and forth between the present, the past, and the future. I'm going to elaborate that more in just a bit. So, without any further ado, let's get started with urban planning. So this is a recreation of Safsaf 1948, and before that, we can notice that we have a lot of density to the bottom right and a lot of free spaces elsewhere. So I tried to use the existing roads, enhance them to become, compatible with the future and our day-to-day life right now. Because the transportation has improved, the population has increased, and I ended up with something like this, which is basically a centralized design. And as you all know, it means that we have a central dominant space about which a number of secondary spaces are grouped. And the central space is a structure that I called plaza, and I'll be walking you through it. We'll be talking about it later on. But and then I will also justify why it was the center. And regarding the streets design, the streets were designed according to ASHTO 2011. So as we can see, this is the highway, and this is basically the entrance of the village. And then we have the 4 edges of the center, which are main streets. And each edge, they have another street. So we have another 3 main streets. And those, the last, they lead to outside Safsaf. For example, the one at the bottom right, it leads to Safsaf, and the one at the bottom right, it leads to Ras Al Akhtar. And from the midpoint from the original main streets, we have sub-streets that help also define and divide the zones. Speaking of which, let's talk about the zones. So when you first enter the village, you will see a forest, which will definitely cleanse the air and give a first impression about the village, and it is the greenery. And then we have the olive mill, but it's not really an olive mill. It is also other services, because the agriculture was the main activity of the village. The village Safsaf is known for its fertile soil, and so most of the villagers were actually farmers. Actually, this is where the old olive mill existed, somewhere near here, but this one's bigger and this one's enhanced. So this area not only includes the olive mill, but it also includes all the tools and the services that farmers need. And then the next one is what I called a cultural, but it has the memorial building that we're going to talk about just in a bit, and a market for the locals to sell handicrafts that presents the identity of the village, and souvenirs and so on. And I just want to say that I have located the cultural area next to the olive mill. And the reason behind that because in the future, tourists are going to come and see the memorial building.
Shahid, do you mind if you concentrate?
But we can also
sorry, do you mind if you concentrate your presentation more on the memorial bit? As you know, there's only a little bit of time left, so we'll actually, if you talk more about the memorial, I think that would be great, actually.
Absolutely, no problem.
Yeah?
I'll just skip through this.
Thank you.
So, regarding the memorial building design, to design this, first when we say the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, the first thing that comes to mind is two different sides that are constantly clashing and trying to, win. And here comes a very, very common misconception, and it is that a lot of people do not acknowledge the difference between Judaism and Zionism. And we're going to talk about this a bit more in just a bit. So we are talking about, if we look at it the way it is right now, in the present, we can see that we have an existing layer, which is the Palestinian, and then we have a very new layer. That layer is alien, superimposed. And so we're definitely, if we were to talk design principles, we would be talking about definitely contrast and maybe variety and hierarchy. We definitely wouldn't be talking about harmony, rhythm, no unity, or balance. So that layer, the new alien superimposed layer, where did it come from? What was the origin? So we all know that the Jews existed. They lived in Palestine, and they lived both Muslim and Christians. They all lived under the British Mandate, and before that, they lived under the Ottomans. So what happened is that after the Balfour Declaration, we had these new elements added. These new elements started making changes, and then appeared what is so-called Israel. And might think like this. So we have this original cubic rectangular structure, and then we have two similar elements that are added. These elements are similar in form and materials. And these elements are powerful. They're making basically and mostly two changes. First, on themselves, they are trying to expand and disrupt and destroy the surrounding buildings. And the second is on the original building. They are extending it to its origin, and we can see those rustic metal grids, and we can also see that those grids are big in diameters. And then we have this new structure that is complicated, that is unpredictable in a way, and it is cladded with metal, different types of metal. And the function of the memorial building is to tell the story of the village, and that is divided into two parts. So the day when the village has officially been taken down, and people have given up, around 50 to 70, and the numbers are not yet clear, were bound and executed in cold blood by the Israeli forces. And 4 women, one of which is a 14-year-old teenager, they were raped. And the rest of the villagers, most of them, they fled to Lebanon. So we want to tell that story. And we also wanted to tell the story before 1948. We want to know how the villagers, how did the Palestinians live. And there's another common conception. People think that Palestine as a whole has exact traditions. But what I learned during my first phases and this project is that some villages were known for certain things, certain dances, certain food, certain clothes. So that should also be taught in this memorial building. And actually, pictures of a couple of things on the first slide can also be displayed. These were things that were recovered. So, how does this memorial serve the principles that I'm talking about, and the principle that I mentioned earlier, which is contrast? So we can see contrast in many ways. We can see first in materials when we're talking about the use of brick, and then the use of metal. Brick is known for its roughness, so it's soft. And then again, with the metal itself, it's with the rustic metal, and then with the soft metal. And once again, with the inside thing, this former that is copper, and the outer served as the outer skin of this form, and which is not black. So the copper is bright and shiny, but the black is, and that's all. That also sends a message. And other than the edges, we have stairs. I like to describe stairs as maze, because you have multiple choice. They are not repetitive. They are not exactly the same. They're constantly changing.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so the first step of proposed design was to create connections with the original Palestinian village. This was achieved by extracting important like the refugees who purchased was at the village. The second was the conditions of refugees in the country. The next step of the design took place through participating and resolving the refugees, then looked at the design. This participatory design approach including community meetings, workshops, and
sorry, we have to stop you. We can't hear anything, so it's not fair for you to talk for long. So kindly just flip through, just go down through the slides, and we have the opportunity to have a thorough look at your presentation in the exhibition. So kindly just flip through them without maybe talking, because we can't hear you. And as you finish, just let us know.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry about not being able to hear you, but this is technology and we can't really do much about that. So, thank you anyway.